Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu as a Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our Albums of the Year list. This time it's 1996. So yeah, 1996 still very much in the Britpop era. And yeah, this is a good year. I don't think there are so many like all-time classics like there were in 95, but I still think we have a robust and strong list of albums. So without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums of 1996. So we're going to be kicking off this list with Tiger Milk, which was the debut album by Belle and Sebastian, and this record was actually recorded as part of a university project, and when the musicians went into the studio they weren't really a fully formed band, and they became a band just through the trials of making this record. And yet this sets out the stall very nicely, straight from the off. This record is very lo-fi and it's taking lots of influences from bands like Orange Juice and the Smiths. And yeah, plenty of good tracks on this. The opening track, The State I Am In my opinion, is Belle and Sebastian's very, very best song. So they're kicking off their first album with their very best song, and they don't really ever better it. You know, I'm not quite sure what that says about the band, but I like Belle and Sebastian quite a lot anyway. Anyway, The State I Am In is just an absolutely fantastic song, one of the best of 1996, go check that out. Other great tracks on this, Expectations, just demonstrates the kind of style that Belle and Sebastian would continue for the rest of their career. We Rule the School is a beautiful piano ballad. I Don't Love Anyone is just really, really catchy. So yeah, this is a solid debut album which sets up the template for Belle and Sebastian and shows a lot of potential. Great stuff. Coming in next, we have Everything Must Go by the Manic Street Preachers. So this is the record that comes directly in the wake of the tragedy of Richie Edwards disappearing, so you'd be forgiven for thinking that they would come back with a really kind of dark, somber record, much like their previous The Holy Bible, but actually that's not where the band bent. Instead, they headed straight for the stadiums, because this record is really anthemic and really catchy. It kind of reminds me of, you know, the kind of stadium rock of U2, but done much better, because I don't really like U2 and I like this quite a lot. And yet there's tons of really awesome tracks on this. A Design for Life is kind of like a counterculture song. It's rallying against that kind of laddish culture that surrounded Britpop, but you know, ironically it was embraced by that kind of lad culture and held up as this beer-swilling anthem where, you know, it's very clearly taking the piss of that. That's absolutely hilarious, and it was also the band's huge breakout hit. The title track, Everything Must Go, again, that word, anthemic, yep, just sing to the rafters, like, fill out the stadiums, great stuff. And yeah, this record did make them into stadium headliners, so I guess that worked. Small Black Flowers That Grow in the Sky has a really beautiful kind of orchestration behind it. It's really fantastic, really delicate. And the closing track, No Surface All Feeling, has this beautifully dovetailing, really kind of sad melody and chiming guitars. It's a really awesome way to finish the record. So yeah, this is just a fantastic effort from the Manic Street Preachers. Coming in next, we have A Maximum High by Shed 7, which was the band's second album, an easily biggest selling album, and yeah, this is just a really supremely catchy slice of Britpop. Every song on this record is just trying to be the catchiest song ever written, and there are tons and tons of great tracks on this. The opening track, Getting Better, just takes that like really heavy distortion of Definitely Maybe and just lets like Rick Witter have at it with his kind of white boyisms. Magic Streets like sounds like the Smiths. It's really cool. Where Have You Been Tonight? Again, as I've already said, super catchy. Going for Gold, the band's only top 10 single, absolutely magnificent. I love that arpeggiated guitar work from Paul Banks on that. Really, really awesome. On Standby is just one of those grandstanding ballads. And Bully Boy, just a pristine textbook slice of Britpop. So yeah, many fantastic tracks on this. I will say there are a few filler tracks here and there, but yeah, this is just a joyous, triumphant sophomore effort from Shed 7. Coming in next, we have the debut album by Placebo, which is self-titled, and yet this is a record that is really kind of ahead of its time. This is really calling forward to the darker kind of nu metal that would dominate the early 2000s, and this is compounded with Brian Mokel's very androgynous voice and lyrics. Really interesting and unique for its time, and plenty of great tracks on this. Come Home just immediately in there with that kind of grinding distortion. Teenage Angst was a great single. Nancy Boy, super nostalgic from when it was plastered all over MTV back in the day. Really cool. Blues Pristine as well. Really awesome. Lady of the Flowers, really atmospheric. And talking about atmospheric, the kind of hidden track or that closes out the album, HK Farewell, just a really kind of ambient, Mogwai-esque instrumental. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, this is just a really, really solid album from Placebo. Next up, we have Come On Kids by the Blue Radleys. So yeah, this is just one of the most interesting and bizarre experimental albums of the Britpop era. This is the sound of the band just gone completely off the rails. If anything sounds even remotely ordinary on this record, there's always something weird coming. You know, either the song will stop and there'll be an a cappella break, or the song structure will change completely on its head. It's a really interesting listen. I mean, you listen to a song like Bullfrog Green, it makes literally no sense, and you just got really weird stuff like the kind of weird beatboxing on the final track, One Last Hurrah. But I find this record really dynamic and exciting, and there are tons of great tracks on this. The opening track and title track, Come On Kids, features like a really cool attacking wah-wah performance by guitarist Martin Carr. I really love his wah-wah work across this entire record. I think that's really, really awesome guitar work. Everything Is Sorrow is absolutely awesome. Again, more of that wah-wah attack on What's in the Box, See What You Got, which was the huge single off of this. New Brighton Promenade, lovely like acoustic kind of melodies, like really fantastic. And the best track on this is Ride the Tiger, which has a clean kind of catchy Britpop sounding verse and chorus, but eventually just explodes when the band bring back the kind of shoegaze aspects from their early career, and it just like this total fuzz out, freak out. It's just an absolutely fantastic finale to the song. So yeah, I got nothing for love for this record. I mean, it's weird and it's a kind of love it or hate it record, but I am definitely on the side of love, and in the easy placing on this list for me. So we're going to be kicking off the top 5 with K by Kula Shaker, which was the band's debut album. And yeah, on this record you have lots of the Grateful Dead or Beatles kind of psychedelia. This is very indebted to Indian mysticism and culture. And as far as ethnic guitar riffs go, yeah, this band is just like the tip top of the mountain, probably the absolute best of all time. This record sold almost 1 million copies in the UK and is full of top 10 singles, so it was pretty damn successful. And as for me, like, I love those kind of like ethnic guitar riffs, and I actually took this record with me on a backpacking trip across India, and yeah, I listened to this record like relentlessly on that trip, and just this record kind of soaked up a lot of the joy of that trip, so it kind of almost gets an automatic win because of that. But yeah, I absolutely fucking love this record, and I love every single track off of it. I think it's flawless. I think it's just really cohesive and full of just absolutely fantastic tracks. Hey Dude, the opening track, huge hit in the UK, absolutely fantastic opener. Govinda, just absolutely amazing. I love Govinda. Like Sleeping Jiva is like really atmospheric kind of sitar intro to one of the main singles, Tapva. Really awesome song. Grateful When You're Dead, Jerry Was There, absolutely brilliant. Start All Over, supremely catchy. Yeah, if you want a bit of incense sniffing ethnic rock, then Kula Shaker have definitely got you covered with one of the best examples of that genre pretty much of all time. Next up, we're coming back around to the Belle and Sebastian camp for their second album, If You're Feeling Sinister, which obviously was also released in 1996, and yet you just have more lo-fi, clean, almost acoustic kind of indie music. Sounds like it could be a soundtrack for a Wes Anderson movie. And yeah, on this record, they're just doing what they do, just better than they did on the first album. Plenty of great tracks on this. The opening track, Stars of Track and Field, really cool. Seeing Other People is great. Me and the Major is super catchy. Like Dylan the Movies, got this really cool acoustic, like echoey reverb central section. I really love that. Fox in the Snow, beautiful piano ballad. Get Away From Here, I'm Dying, super catchy song, one of my favorite Belle and Sebastian tracks. My favorite track off of this though is The Boy Done Wrong Again. Really dour, really sad, like these cascading melodies, absolutely fantastic, and just the right amount of like lonely violin and cello on it. Really good stuff. So yeah, this is just an absolutely classic Belle and Sebastian record, one of their best, and an easy placing on this list. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Coming Up by Suede, which was the band's third album. And yeah, I know that the first two Suede albums tend to get all the critical acclaim, but for me personally, this is easily my favourite Suede album by quite some distance. And yeah, this is like super nostalgic for me because at the time that this was released, it was just everywhere. You couldn't go into a shopping mall or a CD shop without hearing this album. And yeah, like this was super successful. This has 10 tracks on it. 5 of them were UK top 10 singles. That's frankly insane. And yeah, I love every single track off of this. It's absolutely brilliant. The singles, of course, Trash, Film Star, Lazy, Beautiful Ones, all absolutely classic singles, just full of like catchy lyrics and gutter romance. Really cool. The closing track, Saturday Night, also a single, one of my favorite ballads of all time. And yeah, the album tracks on this are just as good as the singles. The piano led By the Sea, absolutely fantastic. Star Crazy, absolutely brilliant. That just crazy moment, he just shouts violence. It's like a fantastic. Picnic by the Motorway is just really atmospheric. So yeah, I absolutely fucking love this record. I think it's flawless, like start to finish, not a bad second of airtime on this. And yeah, for me, this is just the definitive sound of Britpop. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to Odelay by Beck. Now, if you're looking for, the kind of critical darling on this list, then it's definitely this record, because this album has critical praise out the wazoo and sold a whole bunch of copies. So yeah, this is pretty much first ballot choice when talking about albums of the year of 1996. And me personally, I also love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic, as evidenced by its place on this list. On this record, Beck is kind of taking traditional elements of American country music and 80s hip-hop and sample culture and mashing them all together in a really kind of unique, interesting package. It was unique then, and I still think it's unique now. I mean, how many times do you ever really get to hear classic Americana and hip-hop just mashed together like that? Like, very rarely. And this is just full of really great lo-fi indie tracks. I mean, it's super eclectic. You never know what you're going to get from one track for the next. There's just like way too many great songs on this to go through the entire record. I don't think there's a single bad song on here. Highlights include the opener, Devil's Haircut, with its kind of like screamed vocals, really awesome. Lord Only Knows is probably my favorite off the record. Exactly that kind of hip-hop country mashup, really cool. New Pollution is a great pop song. Novocaine, fantastic piece of hip-hop. Where It's At is just a fantastic DJ classic. Minus, a really good piece of punk music. Ramshackle, a really kind of desolate, stripped back slice of melancholia. So yeah, this record is just absolutely fantastic, start to finish. It's a record that everybody should hear at least once in their life. Brilliant stuff. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 1996 is going to go to Casanova by the Divine Comedy, which was either the band's third or fourth album, depending on if you count Fanfare for the Comic Muse. For more on what I'm talking about, please go check out my Divine Comedy full ranking. But yeah, I absolutely love this record. This is the Divine Comedy's breakout record. This record made Neil Hannon into a bona fide pop star in England. And yeah, there are plenty of absolutely fantastic tracks on this. In fact, the entire record is just full of masterpiece songs, start to finish. Something for the Weekend and Becoming More Like Alfie, really great opening singles, super catchy, as is The Frog Princess, the other single from this, which was probably the first Divine Comedy song I ever heard. Just immediately caught my attention and just kept me wrapped throughout the entire song. Absolutely magnificent stuff. In and Out of London and Paris, really hilarious, as is Charge, which I think is the funniest Divine Comedy song of all time. Like that middle section where he's talking about rolling around in no man's land, getting caught in your barbed wire, makes me laugh every single fucking time I hear it. A Woman of the World, you can just see Neil Hannon on stage with a bunch of can-can dancers just twirling his microphone. Super cool stuff. Through a Long and Sleepless Night, my favourite track off this record. It's kind of like semi-rapped, and just, yeah, some of Neil Hannon's vocal work on that, absolutely magnificent. Theme from Casanova is just a gorgeous, cathartic instrumental, and The Dogs and the Horses, the closing track, sweeping orchestral suite, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, this record is an absolute masterpiece, an absolute staple of Britpop, and just a record everybody should hear as soon as humanly possible. So that's it, that's my 1996 list, but that might not be your list. Your list might look completely different. Please sound off in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check out my 1997 list. 1997, really good year, by the way. Take care of yourself, pray for Ukraine, and most importantly, just keep on ranking.
Girl, she was a frog princess. Yes, I do regret it now. But how was I to know that just one kiss could turn my frog into a cow? Beneath a shining guillotine. No. You're forgetting one thing. You don't